You gotta pound me a lot to get any sort of cuts on this fucking face. So yeah, these scars are not from fighting. These scars are from fighting. Beaten by my dad. He tied us up a lot. 13, 14. Started getting caught doing car robberies, and we were doing home invasions. We were doing a lot of stuff at young ages. Like, I enjoyed jail. I thought jail was fine because at least I got fed 3 times. You didn't get hurt. But offered money to take a dub was here in Australia. It was actually $3 million. Wow. But at the time when they offered me that money, this guy trying to buy me, what the fuck? My first thought was, this guy's trying to put me in jail. Couple of injuries. I've got 16 screws.
16 screws.
When I first met Francis, he's the one that said to me, he's like this, I want to fight you, Mark. And I said, sure. When I got offered my first offer from Pride, it was like 75,000 US. And,
wow.
I'd make 1 year's earning in one fight in Pride.
With Pride, did you know that there was anything like the Yakuza thing?
You probably had like a whole table full of like stacks of bills, man. You asked me if I wanted to get paid cash. I'm like, how the fuck am I going to take 450,000 US? What am I won the world title at 27. 22 years after that winning the world title, I'll probably be 50 when I compete again in BNF, which is fucking amazing.
One that stands out to me the most is that Stefan Struve fight. Do you think he was like one of your biggest opponents you fought?
He was the tallest guy like Timmy Shaw. Well, the difference with him, I broke his jaw.
Like, I think there was like rumors that you might even fight like Jake Paul as well. Is that right? On the podcast today, I've got a combat sports legend who opens up about his wild childhood, his biggest fights, being offered to take a dive, his future mega fights. So, Mark, I just want to start off just asking you a few questions, if it's okay. If we could just start to talk about a little bit about your childhood. I read it into your book, Born to Fight, and I just wanted to ask you just a little bit about that and what was it like?
About my childhood?
Yeah.
Well, to me, it was kind of normal until you meet people that are normal. Then you go, okay, so it wasn't normal. But when I look back at it, the whole scenario, I'm like, I guess I've learned a lot in hindsight to not be like my parents or try not to be like them. I sit there and sometimes it's hard to try and go back and think about the tough times and the rough times and how. But like I said, I want to change. I think it's made me who I am today. I'm really resilient in all facets of life, not just as a fighter, but I think growing up the way I did, it made me, like I said, it was what God said. I'm going to be a prize fighter, and that's basically it. So I think the rough childhood was just part of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Like, you had a really rough upbringing, but I think that would have helped so much in sort of being a really resilient fighter that could take damage and could swing back really, really hard and stop people,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think when you're getting hurt as a youth, you only go to the only place you can go. If you're tied up and things, you can only go into your mind and yourself. You can't really escape. You, as many times as I tried to, I still, sometimes you get caught, you get tied up, and you can't go anywhere. So you have to just escape inside yourself, and that's how you dealt with it. Well, that's how I dealt with it a lot of times. So, but because of the roughness of the childhood, it's made me so resilient and mentally, able to take, affliction, pain. So it was like I shouldn't say it was like my best friend, but when it's always right next to you,
it is for fighting. It is for fighting.
Especially with kickboxing and stuff. You can. It's normal, to be honest.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think like one thing I've noticed just from a previous interview, you were saying that like you were like felt really kind of introverted when you like went over to Japan and fight, and they'd ask you like a lot of questions, and you'd be like, "Yep, no," and you wouldn't really express yourself much. And then it wasn't until like your book came out that you were able to feel a bit more open to expressing emotions and talking. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. It was for me as a person, as growing up through such a traumatic upbringing or whatever.
Yeah.
And then doing interviews and not my answer was just yes, no, and I felt that the Japanese public thought this guy's kind of weird. He doesn't really speak much about stuff. He's he talks little about himself sometimes. But the thing is, like I said, until the book came out, it was like it was hard to explain it. I'm not one person to sit there and talk about myself.
Yeah.
But when I realized, speaking about yourself and things, it's
Yeah.
a form of counseling and a form of
It
healing,
is.
which is important, really important, especially if you're trying to clear the pathways to being a better person. And
Yeah.
that was one of the hardest things I found going through as a young fighter,
Yeah.
and going out to the world and opening yourself up to be in the public eye and saying, oh, everyone knows this about you, everyone knows this, but until they read the book, then they understand. Okay, so this is pretty much how it was. So, like I said, to
Yeah.
express myself now is okay because pretty much people know everything about you. You're like,
Yeah.
well, I've got nothing to hide. To be honest,
Yeah.
this is who I am, and this is who God's made me to be, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm here doing this. So yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's like power in speaking the truth and talking about things that happened to you so you can work through them and you can be a better person, and I think
There is
uh
that.
you
That's
know,
exactly right, and
yeah,
especially with my culture and my
yeah,
background and heritage, in our culture, it's kind of like shame and
yeah,
that's they call it to speak on bad things and issues. But the only way
yeah,
to heal is to speak about it, to let people know about it and go through that. The molestation, the family child abuse, all this shit
mm,
needs to be spoke about so it
it
comes to
does.
the light. Otherwise, it's like with every problem you have within life. If you don't speak
Yeah,
about it, nothing gets done about it because they
yeah,
don't know what's the cause of it,
yeah,
and that just doesn't go just with domestic abuse and all that sort of shit. It goes with business. It goes with life in general. If it's not get spoken about it, it
it
won't, it
doesn't
won't be.
exist. It
It
doesn't
doesn't
exist, right?
exist. So it's like
Yeah,
with rulings,
mm,
like I just learnt about court. If the
yeah.
judge can't see, then they can't rule on it.
How they're
You
gonna
know what I mean?
know?
If they can't,
Yeah,
and it's your lawyer's job to do something about it. But if the lawyers don't put it in front of the judge can't see it. Nothing is done
yeah.
about it. It's like with everything with life. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think like I've had a bit of childhood abuse myself, and I used to work in child protection, working with children in foster care and Aboriginal children and Islander children as well. So I know what the stories are like, and I've got a bit of an idea around that. So, and just with the culture thing, I think like there is a big thing about not saying anything, and it's
Yeah.
such a shame to say things, but then
It's
you
wrong.
grow up.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. It's definitely wrong because like for me as well, like I can relate to you about growing up and being in sort of tough situations and just being kind of introverted and quiet. And it wasn't until later on when I started to like get a bit more confident. And for me as well, like I train martial arts, I train jiu-jitsu, train Western boxing. That really helped me to
Yes, to
that
heal,
mental, yeah, helped me to
to
heal.
heal and
And
grow.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, and
yeah,
it's your
I agree.
duty. I think it's your
Yeah,
duty as a person,
yeah,
like our forefathers, whoever came before us, it's our duty as a person
yeah,
to like a pioneer to say, okay, this isn't right, this isn't wrong, and I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. So I'm going to speak on this
yeah,
because what happened to me or anyone else is wrong. And just like you said, it's part of, and if you don't do anything about it, you become part of that issue.
yeah, you do.
You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
become part of that issue by
yeah,
sitting there being quiet.
yeah,
And it's your duty as a person to say to inform the next person coming through and say, look, this is not how things should happen. This is what happened to me.
yeah,
And your story becomes an example for them.
exactly. It
So
does.
and it becomes an example for those that are doing these
Yeah,
fucking things to other people
yeah,
that they need to be punished for that sort of shit, to be honest. So
they do.
so they
They
don't
do.
do it. There should be always has to be some sort of punishments, enforced punishments. Otherwise, why should we have this might as well be just a lawless society.
Yeah.
Fuck, why
No.
not everyone just go run around and do
Yeah,
whatever the fuck
yeah,
they want?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
why have laws for?
yeah. No, you're exactly right, and I just think it's a real testament to you, Mark, that like you're living through an example to the world to be speaking truth to power. It's always been your sort of thing, you had bullying growing up, that you're always standing up for people and seeing what's right, and then also just like throughout your whole life, even this example where you're having to kind of be vulnerable, but you know how much it's going to be to like to help you grow and also help other people know that it's not on, so. You know,
It's
it's
not
really
honor.
great you're
Like I
doing
said,
that.
I don't just speak on the
Yeah,
experiences. I just not only I talk the talk, but I walk the walk
yeah,
also. And that's one thing I've realized is it's okay to talk about shit, but you have to walk through the whole scenario. Same thing like with what I went through with the UFC. I have to walk through this
yeah,
in order for things to change, because ain't nothing gonna change unless someone
yeah,
does something, you know.
yeah, yeah.
And
Nothing
if
will change.
someone's been that's been put on you, then so be it. You know,
Mm,
regardless of the pitfalls of what happens, you got to take that step and say, you know what, I have faith in God, and I have to
yeah,
go that route, because it doesn't matter what you lose. It's what you don't
yeah.
put forward to others that helps them is what you know. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to serve. I feel I'm here to serve others, and with my life.
You get so much just giving back, you know, in life. Like, you know, I'm still trying to build and work on things for myself, but also I found that like giving so much really made me better, made me heal, and made me be able to give more, you know. So
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Mark. I wanted to ask you about just to start. So like you said that you kind of felt like you had more safety and like felt better like on the streets, yeah. So like how did that start where you're kind of like hanging out doing things and then eventually kind of moving in towards finding combat sports?
Well, I mean, we were, you know, as a youth growing up,
Yeah.
I started venturing out. Like I said, I was homeless at 8 for 2 weeks. I
Yeah.
was scared. It was a harsh time. We were always getting beaten by my dad. He was a piece of crap. I
Yeah.
mean, he used everything, and it wasn't just normal beatings. It was like, you know, he tied us up a lot,
Yeah.
and he's just a scumbag, man. It just and you know, just being whipped in the same position so many times, is just breaking the skin. It really irritates me thinking about some of these
Yeah.
this person did. But you know, going out and hanging out with friends. When I got into the system, I think it was like 13, 14, started getting caught doing, you know, car robberies, and
Yeah.
we were doing home invasions. We were doing a lot of stuff at young ages, and then
Mm.
getting caught and putting through the system, and then coming out of jail, I think, and finally realizing, you know, I'm I'm not really I'm just angry at the world these days, and you
Yeah.
know that's how I started. So I felt better with a lot of the guys I hanged out with, because there was no, we didn't worry about um, getting beaten by anyone or nothing. It was
Yeah.
just, you know,
Yeah.
we were just enjoying being a youth
Yeah.
used. But like I said, the childhood had gone. But you know, being young teenagers is what it was, and I felt a sort of a freedom going out. You know, venturing, and it was like an adventure going out, even though it wasn't right what we were doing. You know, robbing cars and
Yeah.
doing all this other, you know, little shit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it just, it was like a feeling of freedom for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't a worry about, you know, being hurt outside, because it was always, you know, you go home and there'd be nothing to fucking eat. There'd be hardly anything. We just some crazy fucking lunatic Mormon running around, you know, waiting for you to do something wrong. It's like, why the fuck would you have kids anyway? Why would you have kids
Yeah. What's the
if you're
point?
gonna be like that to
Yeah.
us?
What's the point?
You know,
What's the point?
why?
Yeah.
And the thing is that
Yeah.
it affects you mentally, but physically at the time, but mentally for years to come. You
Yeah.
know, not just me, but my other siblings, and it just, and then you
Yeah.
go and take that sort of craziness out in the world. Like I could have been a real menace to society, like a real menace,
Mm.
doing bad things and continue to do worse
Yeah.
and worse.
Yeah.
But you know, I think then God said, this is not you. This is, you know, the feeling I got of guilt of going. Like I enjoyed jail as a youth. I
Yeah.
thought jail was fine, because at least I got fed 3 times. You know, you didn't get hurt. You know, you're just with a lot of people, other people that were in jail that were lost also like you,
Yeah.
that made some, you know, wrong decisions. But you know, in the end of the day, my feelings in life was like, I'm not going to continue to go and hurt people because of the way the cards I got dealt.
Mm.
You know, that's just not. I just didn't. It didn't feel right. The mob saying, you know, come join us, and I'm like, I just look. I don't want to be. It just wasn't me.
Mm.
You know, as a youth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm. You know, deep in my heart, I felt I'm not going to continue to do these bad things, and I'm. One of the best decisions I've ever made was, you know, when Dave's brother George said to come to Sydney and live, and I said, oh, okay. You know, I just got out of jail, had no job, and a shit education.
Who's this? Sorry, Mark. Dave. Dave.
a friend of mine, Dave Samuel's name was, but Dave Fuimono.
Okay.
You know, he said, "Just come to. Let's go to." We were actually in his garage playing Xbox, and his brother George called. He says, "Oh, George goes, come and live over in Sydney." I said, "Oh, what the fuck's over there?" You know. But a friend of mine talks a long time ago said, you know, because he moved to Melbourne. He said, "Melbourne's." He goes, "Bro, Sydney's the place, bro. Calm,
Yeah, it
this and
is.
that."
Yeah.
You know, all this sort of jazz. But you know, I
Yeah.
didn't realize about. You don't really learn about living life until you actually living your life. I had friends that I could rely on, but you know, it took a few years to learn about life.
Sorry, Mike. I was just going to say you didn't really have like a book or anyone to like really guide you. You had to kind of work it out for yourself. There wasn't going to be, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, it's hard when you're just
yeah,
trying to survive and your fucking dad's beating the fuck out of you for dropping plates or whatever the fuck it is, or looking at you wrong. You know, he was you know just a real freaking scumbag. You know, and it's just when you're always scared as a kid, it's just not good. It's just not good because it's not good for society. Because when you actually start getting older, you know that chip on your shoulder gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And you walk around trying to, you know, look for conflict.
Yeah,
And that's something I brought as an adult into my adult life, which is so wrong. You know, I brought that childhood of looking for conflict into the later ages of life, which is totally wrong. When at the end of the day, you know, the people around you or whoever you're seeing has done nothing wrong at all to you. It's just you have these anger issues that can only be solved by you going to counseling to try and help yourself and heal yourself, so you can be a better member of society instead of a fucking crazy lunatic. You know?
Yeah. I know. But you know, you're the example of someone that like has gone through that, and you have such a wonderful family, Mark, and you're doing so well with all those things. You know.
Hey,
You know what
wait
I
a
mean?
minute. I am not gonna. I have made so many mistakes in my fucking life that is
Yeah.
not even funny. You know, my marriage broke up. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I've made a shitload of mistakes. You know,
Okay.
but my issue is I'm trying not to do those repeated
Yeah.
mistakes again. And
Yeah.
that's the thing about growing up.
Yeah. It
You know, I'm
is.
not perfect in any sense of the word. I mean, they're far from it. But me in the public eye, I have to try and be a better person, which is what it is. So.
But I think just being honest and being even that you're so honest, Mark. You can't tell lies, and you just
Well, I
it
mean,
just kind of speaks to your character about
what's the point? I
growing.
mean, fucking, hey, I've lied so many times about fucking stupid shit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and if I've lied to
Yeah.
myself millions and millions of times, you know, when I said, "Oh, fucking, I got to get to do this training," oh no, I'll do it tomorrow. There's so many times I've procrastinated and lied about dumb stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we are all of us are born sinners. We wake up and think we wake up and sin every fucking day, every single one of us.
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
no
true.
different. I just just like I said, I've tried to not make the same mistakes over and over again. If I've seen it once and I said, okay, that is not right, that is wrong. Try and do better or do better.
So when did you sort of start to see combat sports as an option? I know that you were having some fights like on the streets and whatnot. Was that in Auckland, or was that actually in Sydney?
It was in Auckland. For
Okay.
start, it was gypsy. I was gypsy fighting long before I was
You were
actually a
gypsy
fighter.
fighting.
Well, you know, street fighting is like gypsy
Oh,
fighting. It's the
okay.
same dumb
Yeah.
shit as that. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
and in the end, it was just actually going out and getting into trouble. It
Yeah.
wasn't an organized thing. It was just going out to clubs, and then your crew don't like that crew, or some stupid shit will happen, and then
And that's
you'll be
it. Yeah.
fighting and beefing. So it's nothing was organized, and the longest it'll probably go is like what 30 seconds, a minute,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, that was only that was before I was actually a pro fighter. I was actually doing dumb shit like that all the time. Got a lot of trophies on my hands, even before I was a fighter, for that sort of jazz,
Yeah.
which is not good, which is not right. So
Yeah. And then you had like a fight at a nightclub, and that's when you met your first trainer. Is that right?
yeah, so like I said, we're out the normal weekend where we just finished mugging some people.
Yeah.
My other mate was wearing his jacket at the club, which I shouldn't laugh, and it's wrong. So he was wearing it, and these four guys, and I walked him outside, and I asked one of the boys, I said, "Where's blah 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 gone?" I
Yeah.
shouldn't say his name, but he knows who he is. But I've said it a minute. And he said, "Oh, he's going out with these four guys." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I went to help him. The place is called DTM's, and they were kicking the shit out of him in the corridor. So I ran over, to help him, I ended up sitting right next to him, and they were kicking the shit out of both of us. But I had a real fucking hair trigger temper at the time, and I was,
Yeah.
I was. Oh, actually, I had abs as well. And these guys were standing outside the nightclub, and they were just taunting us with the cops were there.
Yeah.
And I was irate, so I just went over and clocked one of them. A big fight broke out. I hit one of the other guys there under the cop car.
Under
Big
the
rumble
cop
broke
car.
out. Everyone's because the cops were there already, and these guys they thought that we weren't going to do anything about it, but
Yeah.
I don't know about them, but I was going to do something about it, and that's how it ensued. And then Sam, who's some guy, like I said, I was in the rumble in the ruckus, and Sam grabbed me and pulled me. I didn't know who it was. It pulled me into hiding. He said, I looked at him, and then he was a Rastafari man. He was a good dude. He said, just wait here. And I was in the toilet, so I just waited there, and everything blew over. I ended up, he came back in and said, look, man, would you be keen on doing a Muay Thai fight? And I said, yeah, man, I thought I owed him because he saved me from being arrested. So
Yeah.
I think the following week I was in that same club fighting Muay Thai for the first time. So that's how my journey started as a prize fighter. And it wasn't, he just said, here's some beers for you and your boys. And that was it. So it wasn't even, that's not what my life, because back then, K1 wasn't about Muay Thai, was just starting in New Zealand and only boxing. So it wasn't, there wasn't no end game there. So I didn't want to be a fighter in that sense. It was just living my journey of life in that aspect. Guys like Ray Seffel and Jason Suddy, Jason, all these guys, Philip Hassan, were already competing in Muay Thai prior, but I didn't realize until after I came into that fighting scene who they were, who the big dogs were, and those were the big dogs of NZ. Or they were just Philip Hassan, and they were cleaning up everyone, Eddie the Heat, all from Lolo Hemuli's camp. Balmoral Liga, which is crazy. Like I said, the only person that was doing anything globally was David Tor. He was the only one cleaning up community house everywhere in boxing. So yeah.
Like, had you ever even heard of like Muay Thai really before you had your first Muay Thai fight?
No, I didn't hear. I was just like I said, I didn't know what the fuck. I was like, when they said Muay Thai, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Is that some sort of gay game or something? I don't know what the fuck it was. He was like, because I found it kind of weird, but then it was one of my mate Bill's. Bill was it was his uncle Sam. They're both Cook Islanders, and he's like, no, it's a fight sport. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, why not? I didn't know what I was getting into, but I said, sure. That young and dumb think you're tough. Whatever. He said, whatever. And you know what? He said, come down to 4th Street to his gym, and join the team training, and then that's what I did. So I only I didn't have a car. My mate Rob took me down to a couple of trainings, and that's all I did. I thought it was quite cool because gave me some shorts with some weird writing on it.
Yeah.
And I used to run around South Auckland. I was like, yeah, they are cool. They're cool as, because shorts with some foreign. It was actually Thai writing. I don't know. It could have said dickhead on the whole fucking front, but but yeah.
Okay. Did you know the rules going into your first fight?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the rules are pretty much like I thought, like any rule: hurt him, and that's it. There was no, for me. There was no. I didn't care about rules. It was just all I got to do was hit that guy and hurt that guy until he doesn't move again. That's all that's what I knew.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something I told. That's what I knew. I was like, I gotta kick him, punch him, do whatever I can, so he doesn't fucking keep coming. But like I said, the first kick I had, he was like way bigger guy than me, and I kicked him for the first time. Well, I think he kicked me, and I was like, damn, that fucking hurt. I was like, it's like virgin legs or something.
Yeah. The first time I ever got kicked in the leg, I didn't really understand it. Like I thought, oh yeah, you just get kicked in the leg, whatever. But then a little bit later, you're like, oh wow, you can't like walk or move on it. You know what I mean? Like I haven't done any professional fighting, just like sparring and whatnot. I was like, holy shit, this hurts so much.
Yeah, so I was like, as soon as I got kicked or I kicked him, I think it was, I was like automatic back to my, I know this feeling. I know
Yeah.
exactly this feeling. This is the normal feeling that I get all the time. So pretty much,
Yeah.
oh yeah, sweet. Then it
Yeah.
was this, it was affliction. I said, I know that that's my buddy again coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
But it was
is.
not my dad. It was someone else trying to do it. I said, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So then, Mark, how long did it take you to sort of get from like your first fight? You went straight pro, right? You didn't. There was no amateur, no amateur
I
bouts.
fought Muay Thai until I went to Australia, and then I turned because I was training at Mundine's gym,
Yep,
and I actually
in
got turned
Redfern.
pro by Barry Raff. He was a crooked promoter. He turns me pro because I was fighting
Yeah,
one of his other guys. I was still smoking and drinking. Like I said, I had no clue what was going on. I just said, "Oh yeah, sure." You understand, bro? But it was against one of his fighters called John the Digger Whiteborn, and
yeah,
I lost that fight. I came straight from the bar into the ring. And I was like, yeah, what's
really.
up? I had no clue because it's a different discipline altogether, man. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you start to after that fight? Did you have some more pro bouts or?
It was all, I started doing K1. I was
Okay.
kickboxing all over the joint. I was
Hmm.
just filling in for everyone. Then I got the first taste of something to train for was K1, the
Mm.
Oceanas.
Hmm.
And then I went into that. I started taking it seriously, training,
Yeah. How
gave
old were
up
you?
smoking. I was 24 or 25
24,
because in that
25.
2 years I trained. I'd won the Oceania twice, and then that year I won the Oceania, the Worlds when I was
Yeah.
27. So I went from
Wow.
um, fighting in a 1,000-seater stadium in the Melbourne Casino, the Crown,
Yeah.
to fighting in 40,000 venue in Japan. So
Yeah.
I went from the small venue to the big time. So I really realized that from my first fight in Japan against Jerome Lebana,
Mm.
I got stage fright for the first time ever. Um,
You went and just fought all the biggest legends straight away. Like there was no gimme fights, and like when I look at your pro record when you're going into Japan, you're just fighting the best straight off the bat. And these guys, what they would have like huge amateur careers, pro careers coming into fighting into those tournaments, right?
well, yeah, man. I mean, like I said, a life of resilience and affliction. Like I said,
Yeah,
God put me here to fight, and that's, I mean, me fighting those guys. I didn't realize, until I actually went through fighting with Jerome, I realized
yeah,
I'm 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 part of this elite. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
I'm part of this elite, and there's no way this, the top table. I'm sitting here. I'm going to kick some of these fools off there. So, and then it was at the end of the day, the only person that would beat me is me, and that's because I didn't train properly. So it took a few
mm,
different adjustments, but in the end of the day, I'm sitting at the top table with the best of these fighters in the world because that's
mm-hmm,
my mindset was I'm the best fighter ever,
yeah,
regardless of how they saw me. You know.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think so as well. Like, I think you're the only one from like Australia, New Zealand, that ever won like the K1 World
Yeah,
Championship, right?
I'm the only,
Yeah,
especially the heavyweight title.
yeah,
At the end of that, I felt like I said, God has blessed me to be a part of the fighting elite
yeah.
in these different genres because it's because that's how things went for life. So
And back in the day, like I know I had to ask this with K1 and Pride. Like I had Enson Inoue on the podcast, and he was telling me that all in the Pride contracts it said we're not going to test for steroids at all. Did you know anything about that back then, or hear anything from the other fighters?
well, the thing is that I didn't, me being green about it, I didn't know, this from this. I didn't know, and it wasn't, all they said. All I knew was what they said to me is, "Do you want to fight?" And I said, "That's it." I didn't really realize the politics about the whole thing is about steroids until I actually came into Pride. Um, and I asked them the first time I went into the meeting with these guys. I was like, "This, oh, what about steroids?" They all just fucking laughed at me, like a whole room full of suited Japanese businessmen just laughing, and I was in there. What the fuck he's laughing about? But like I said, I didn't organize my contracts. It was
Yeah,
management at the time
yeah,
that did it. All I was doing was becoming from zero amateur to the best fighters in the world that I've seen on videotapes, and I'm thinking, and I'm here now. Yeah, I'm here
mm,
now, and I'm okay. I didn't know the ins and outs about this and that. I was just I'm just in there fighting. No one had gave a good advice about any. I mean, it was kind of hard.
Yeah. Did you have a local manager or just like a manager back
Yeah,
home?
it was a guy.
Yeah.
I think it was Zen that started managing me in the start for
Okay.
K1. Okay, actually, I think it might have been Happy or Lucy. It was
Okay.
actually those guys. It was Happy that was doing the management. Tarek Solek that did shows down in Melbourne. He became part of my management also because you signed an agreement to go through with the Oceania fighters.
Yeah.
Anyone that won there had to be part of his management. So yeah, like I said, it was steroids and back in those days. It's something that they probably did all the time.
Yeah.
And like, end of the day, is like the only time I saw when I went into Pride, and I asked them about it, and they just
Yeah.
laughed about it. So like I said, you learn these things as you go along in the world, and especially with fighting. And then as you get up higher, then you realize, oh, it's just a game of inches, because
Yeah.
everyone up here is fucking elite. Everyone up here is good. Everyone up here is big. These are heavyweights, and it comes down to just the little bits and pieces
Little
of.
advantages.
And
Yeah.
so these guys that started using all these steroids and things, they want these advantages, So me being green, I'm just coming in, like I said, I'm way better than these motherfuckers anyway. So
Yeah.
that I got a God given talent, and if they have to cheat to be up here, man.
Yeah. But this is something that's always been with you, Mark. You've always been honest about this specifically, but also that like you've never been like a cheater or used anything at all. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty amazing because considering like the people you fought, so many of them have been caught for steroids, plus the Pride era, which was like do whatever you want, really. So and you fought basically them all.
Yeah, it's well, like I said, I'm in a lawsuit about this sort of jazz. It's
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to sit there and think about it, but it's been, man, 30 something years now,
Yeah.
and 22, I think, or 23 as a prize fighter, to be honest, So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've got a couple of injuries. I've got 16 screws because
16
of a
screws.
cheetah in my hand, because of a cheetah, a couple in my leg, two-piece reconstructions. But,
Is
like I
that
said,
from the silver fight?
yeah,
The Bigfoot silver fight? Yeah.
yep. And
Yeah.
all that stuff when they cheated, Mars the fight. But like I said, through those eras of times, I was
Yeah.
green about the whole scenario. I'm not going to
Yeah.
continue to go through. Not saying anything. I went through a long time. I mean, Pride didn't test. I don't think they tested me a few times, but
Oh, they did. They actually did test you.
yeah, of course they tested
Okay.
me.
Okay.
And in UFC tested a lot, but Pride didn't say they had the best testing policies in the world.
Yeah.
UFC did. So as they went along, more people got caught doing steroids, and then every time I'd ask them to do something with the UFC, I'd ask them, I said, "Oh, are you gonna do something about it?" "Oh, that's not our position to do something about it. It's up to USADA or whatever."
Mm.
And as you go, like I said, as you go along, I just had enough. When I ended up, I think the straw was, because the last time I asked them was this Bigfoot fight.
Yeah.
Because I got nearly a year off, I think it was, because I couldn't fight again, because I had a
That
surgery
war.
and I hit my
That's
hand,
yeah. What a
and
fight that
and
was.
I saw Bigfoot. He got 9 months suspension, and he still fought before I could come back and make money. So that really triggered me and upset me. But the straw that broke the camel's back was the Lesnar fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I keep telling them about doing something about it. They wouldn't
Yeah.
do something about it, and all I
Yeah.
asked was a clause in the contract. So when that happened, I just said, okay, if you're not going to do something about it, I have to.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing about it is trying to change all contact sport. It's not just fighting; it's all contact sport. So and that's the whole issue about changing sports, especially through steroids and stuff. Because at the end of the day, as a fighter, I feel it's premeditated murder. And if they could kill someone doing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a whole can of worms with this sort of jazz. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I wanted to say, like, just to sort of wrap up on this issue because I know it's a bit of a hot topic. With I just think back to like MMA career, like some of your losses, like the only ones that were really the losses were the people that were caught. Like I think like even the Fabricio Werdum fight where you fought for the title, came out later like he was on steroids and
Well, bro, I mean that fight took my. I mean, a lot of the things they did wrong.
yeah.
I mean that I had to lose 22, 21 kilograms in 3.5 weeks. That nearly took my soul. And to be
Wow.
cheated out of that world title
Mm.
because of that guy and the same thing with Brock Lesnar. They didn't even have a
Yep.
public weigh-in for that guy. That guy weighed. He was far bigger than I was.
So wait,
You know?
wasn't any public weigh-in for that fight?
No, I had to go on this guy. He didn't even weigh in. His weigh-in was fucking bullshit. They didn't even weigh him, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, he weighed the 500 grams with the limit. I was like, there's no way. He didn't even have a
Yeah.
public weigh-in. So those guys, like I said, they've got a lot of issues coming, and and that's wrong what they've been doing, what they're doing, and they're still doing now. What's wrong what they're doing? So, yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, just going back to like the Pride days, like, did you have any grappling experience before you went into any of these MMA bouts?
I think I had like 3 weeks or 6 weeks. Pride gave me $40,000 to go train with Bash Rutten, but
Oh.
I just kept the money and just went and trained with Steve Oliver. So a guy, I did about 6 weeks of jiu-jitsu to start with, and I got, like I said, I went from
Yeah.
a great kick fighter, the world's best kick fighter, to going into grappling, and
Oh,
Steve
it's
was like
such a
about
big
88,
change.
80 kilos, bro. I walked into that place in Glen in Oliver's gym, and
Yeah.
Steve was wrestling around with Seth.
Yeah.
And I was like, this, what are these guys doing? And I was like, bro, you just stand up, bro. You can just stand. And he goes, and this is an 80-kilo guy, 88 kilos. I just, well, why don't you come and stand up, bro? I got smashed for the next 6-8 weeks. I got hammered. He was knee riding my face, my lips. He was fucking, like, I was getting neck cracked. Man, I was sitting there, man, this is like being like I was young again, getting abused
Yeah.
by my dad. It was so funny. I sit here and laugh about it all because
Yeah.
I love those guys. They're good guys, but it taught me a real lesson in humility about the different genres of sport. So yeah, that was a hard, humbling lesson for me.
Yeah.
Not like I wasn't humble, but I was like this. I thought I can just stand up,
Yeah.
but bruh, you can't.
Yeah.
With grappling, there's different ways of doing things, of connecting the fucking dot like a puzzle. But oh my gosh, anyway, that's those days are over now. But it's like I said,
Yeah.
I sit back and I smile when I look back at those days because
Yeah.
I'm learning those things, man. Like I said, I have a massive respect for jiu-jitsu players and wrestlers because it's such a hard thing to go from a striking to a grappling.
Completely different world. Completely
Totally
different
different world. I mean, I was
Yeah.
like a fucking guppy inside a Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And these guys are, Steve was only 88 kilos or something. He was light.
Yeah.
But these guys were fucking hammering me around the days. But you know, it's funny though, because every time that I'll get hammered,
Yeah.
Steve would just be sitting there laughing. He's going, get up, fuck.
To stand up, Mark. To stand up.
But yeah, I was just tapping
Yeah.
all the time, but because it made me
Yeah.
laugh, bro. Because
Yeah.
I was tapping all the time, and he said you have to tap, otherwise that'll break or that'll snap. And I said, okay. So I was pretty much going, I was playing the drums all the time. Good memories, bro. I fucking love those days. I miss those days now. I sit back and I'm 49. I sit back and miss those days of training with a good group of guys. DJ Reminisce, with the grappling is just amazing.
Yeah.
Some good memories, man. Some lifelong memories I'll never forget.
Yeah. I just can't believe that you just went into these MMA fights against people that are like black belts, wrestlers.
These were guys. I was starting like the guys I was grappling with.
Yeah.
We were just pioneering MMA in New Zealand. Like I said, training with before I was doing it, and I was Jamie Tahuna and Tamatun were doing it.
Yeah.
MMA. I was like, what is that shit? But then I started doing it. I got a bad taste because of another guy who was throwing fights. I got a bad taste from him seeing that this guy throwing fights, going, yeah, this, and someone else telling me,
in Pride?
No, this was King of the Cage. And he was
Okay.
telling me this guy was friend of King of some of the fights. I was thinking, this motherfucker. So that's what turned me off it. But like I said, when I got offered my first offer from Pride, it was like 275,000 US, and you know the Aussie, our money, the dollar was, I was getting paid an American dollar, so it was double.
Oz US as well.
Dollar. Yeah.
That's
So it's double. So I'd make like 250,000 a year in K1 for 6 fights. I think it was, but I'd make 1 year's earning in 1 fight in Pride.
That's huge.
So you know,
no wonder
so
you did
the money was, like I said, I'm a prize fighter. It was always about making that coin to start with. So, but it was I didn't realize how different that sport was.
Yeah.
How different MMA was, brother. You know, but anyway, lifelong memories with some good people, man. Like I had guys like Reminisce used to come from DJing in the club to come help me training. That's how fucking inadequate we were. We had no one. And then this time, you know, some other guy came along to help us. Bam, when Bam joined our team, and we started trying to build a great team for MMA. And I think it was one of the first teams that I had a group of guys that I started training with Marcelo and all. It was for MMA, just specifically for fighting MMA. Yeah.
Did you end up fighting? Not fighting. Did you end up training with Barsford at all?
No, I just saw him at Pride, and he was just probably just hammering me. You go, this fucking guy. That is a good dude, but it was. I wouldn't change a thing, to be honest. Like I said, I learned so much from Steve and the guys I trained with, because we learned. The first thing I started doing was just self-defense, defense from takedown, defense from. It took a long while to click about it, you know, until I started to realize I went from here in real time the fight to taking a top end view like a drone and seeing my positioning with different stuff. So you know,
How long did they say, oh, will you fight MMA in Pride, to how much training to like your first MMA fight was there?
They gave me a certain time. I think I had like 8 weeks.
8 weeks, okay.
8 weeks to fight. I was fighting Yoshida in Pride.
Yeah.
And you know, I just got fucking hammered for the 6 weeks. I just got fucking hammered like a dog. And that's all I was doing, getting fucking plastered.
Yeah.
And then I fought Yoshida and lost to him by an armbar, I think. But I don't think any of those guys that beat me those early days of Pride, they would not have a chance now. They not have a chance now, man.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of them would be training much at all. Can't think of.
I think I'm the last of the era of my era of fighters. So, you know, being the last of the Mohicans is pretty cool, man. That's another reason why I think it's going to be awesome for me to take this challenge on a bare knuckle, because gypsy fighting for me is like, I think is what I started with, and I'm actually built for that sort of jazz. I think it's an amazing fucking sport, and I think it's way better than because you know what you're getting. You know, it's just you guys duking it out, baby.
Yeah, it is. It is. My friend fights for Bare Knuckle FC. He's had a few fights for them, and he was just saying that like the biggest thing is that they're still a bit like they're still not sure about the rules of like hitting down opponents. Sometimes people get DQ'd, but he also said that like he just loved the shorter rounds, the contact, the feeling. It's like a lot more painful, but the fight's so much quicker, you know, and the pay is really good too.
It's right up my alley. So, you know, like I said, I'm built for war with those sort of fights, you know, to be honest. And it's hard I don't really cut up that easy, ever.
Yeah.
You know, you got to take it. You got to pound me a lot to get any sort of cuts on this fucking face. So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't really have any scarring, Mark, on your, like, I can't
I do.
Much.
I have, but these scarring these scars are not from fighting, you know. These scars are from fighting, you know, but those are before my actually became a pro fighter. So, yeah. It actually helped me to move away from the other side of fighting. So, yeah.
Yeah. With the bare knuckle thing, like, have you got an opponent in mind, or have you like in talks or negotiations?
I've been talking with the big Mick Terrell, the champion. I mean, I'd love to, like I said, it's on Dave now. We're just waiting on Dave. We're just talking. Our manager Gabriel speaking with him. So, if we can lock down a deal with big Mick Terrell, the champ, you know, first fight in bare knuckle, man. To me, it's like I've been doing that sort of fighting before I even became a fighter.
Yeah.
To be honest, and I'd love to lock horns with them. I don't think they're in the same level as me.
Yeah,
Especially, I mean, they think they're fast and all that shit, but yeah, you can hit as much as you want, bro. I only need to get you one time, baby. I
that's
just didn't
it. That's it.
hit you. If I hit you one time, your face is coming off.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna add you. I will add them to my collection on my hands. I add them to my collection.
Well,
Uh,
it seems like it's the sport designed for you, you know, like
it is.
with straight,
Like I said,
you know.
before I was a prize fighter, I was gypsy fighting. Right?
Yep.
Last time I had out there, I had someone's teeth stuck in my fucking hand. So you know.
Yeah. So like, you know, for you, it's going to be like a really easy transition. And you've been doing boxing. You had a few pro boxing fights before this as well, the Sonny Bill Williams fight and the Paul Gallen fight. You know, so
I think
yeah,
I think the gypsy fight is different with the no gloves because
yeah.
you have to be a lot more accurate and
You've got smaller
careful about a
blocking
lot
as
of.
well. Like you haven't got like a big glove to protect so much of your face. You know.
Yeah, there's no gloves.
Yeah.
You know, you can hit them with your hands, and it's just yeah, you got to be pretty precise, my friend.
Yeah. Yep. And have you had any like talks of anyone from Saudi Arabia about like fighting over there? Because you know, like John Wayne Parr posted on Instagram the other day talking about these like crazy offers for like millions and millions of dollars for all these legends in the sport. And you see what they're doing of NBA. They're like and all the other sports now in golf. They're all just trying to like they've got so much money to spend. Like them over
Yes,
there.
no. Well, I
You
mean,
can
I think
see it. You know.
it's a good thing for fighters, especially with
Yeah.
options all over. I mean,
It's
because at
awesome
the end
thing
of
for
the day,
fighters.
some of the contract the UFC have is like they're slaver contracts. You know,
Yeah.
you can't have that. The contracts, those contracts here in Australia are called slave contracts.
Mm.
You know, and they won't be allowed here illegally, to be honest. You know, because what they're doing is totally wrong. In
Yeah.
Saudi, I think, like I've had, like Gabriel's been talking to in Ghana's camp, but a few different people about different things. So, I mean, only the future will let you know what's going on. To be honest, so there's some
Could you
good.
fight him?
Well, when I first met Francis, he's the one that said to me, he's like this, I want to fight you, Mark. And I said, sure, sure. You know, me being me, I'm like, oh, bro, let's just take a photo, right? Let me take it. This is way before he was a champ, way before the champ. So let me just take a photo. Let's take a photo, and then we can speak. You can call your dad Dana, or no, he's not there because he left the company. But you can call Dana and talk to him later about it. I said, but yeah, nice
Yeah.
guy. Like I said, he was
Yeah.
with I think Jerome Leban's camp
Mm-hmm.
because he was French a long time ago. So I didn't
He
realize
was
he was
French. Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
kickboxing days. So yeah, like I said, first time I met Francis, he's like this. Oh, I want to fight with you. I said, sure, sure.
We know it's interesting because, like, you know, Francis went from the UFC to fighting the best in the world in boxing and heavyweight and looks amazing. And I just think about you, Mark, like, there's an opportunity there for you in like heavyweight boxing still, you know, and all these other like
But
avenues still. Just looking at
one of the
that
things,
success.
one of the things I like about me coming back to fighting,
Yeah.
although the reason I'm fighting is because I have to pay for this trial that's going to come up. The fact that me being at my age, at the last of my kind, that alone is an amazing accomplishment. If I can get
Mm.
a world title at my age, then I'd make history. And
Yeah.
if I can change contact sport with my lawsuit, that is
Mm-hmm.
making history.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit is it helps a lot of other sports, men and women, in all genres, can do it fairly without fucking these cheating losers taking shortcuts.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, the only difference between the UFC fighters and any top end fighter in the world is pay.
Mm.
And the reason, we all know that's the reason why that reason is. I mean, and you can see that when Ngannou transitioned to do boxing, he was competitive. You know, there's a lot of fighters out there like that, and the only thing like that is that made the UFC fighters look silly now that everyone knows about is the pay scale.
Yeah.
And because all the we all know where the money's going to. They're just ripping everyone off.
Yeah.
Man, you got to get me started again, talking toxic about this company again, man. And I don't want to. Don't get me started on them, bro.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, we've got guys. You know, the Rob Macy and them are in the
Yeah.
Ali Act. They're trying to bring the Ali Act into MMA
Okay.
to make things fair. They've been trying for 10 years. They've got April their lawsuit. You know, they've got mine coming at the other end, coming hard.
Yeah.
I think I have my first filing in 2 weeks.
Okay.
My partner and I are filing our first filing today
Yeah.
about unsealing a lot of the stuff, to be honest, about my crooked lawyers, Christina Denning and Brian Boshi. The stuff they've done with my lawsuit, they should not have a license.
Okay.
They should be ashamed of themselves. And, they're a black eye to the American Law Society. So if you're in America and you want lawyers, don't use Christina Denning and Brian Boshi. Those guys are criminals. Just like the criminals, they try to help. What's really exciting to me is like me venturing into bare knuckle, which is like something I started a long time ago. And, being the last of my kind to get the world title in bare knuckle. And that's for that alone is an accomplishment.
It will be, Mark, for sure. Has there been any talks of anyone from like Saudi Arabia or any like other offers
You
there
asked
as
me
well?
that prior, but there has been. Like Gabriel's been talking to them. To Bahrain, Saudi, about a boxing fight. So like I said, after I left the UFC, I said I'll do 6 fights, and I've only done 2. I've only done 2 boxing fights. So hopefully I can lock in a contract with bare knuckle with Dave to fight Big Mick and get 3 fights. I want to blow him into the stratosphere, take that bout. I want to give that juggernaut Lorenzo Hunter fucking beating, and then I want to fight whoever's after that. Maybe Ben Roth already punched his face in the UFC, but I'll punch it again.
Oh, yeah. Did you fight Ben Roth already? You've already fought him
in UFC, but then do one more boxing fight to go from there. So
that'd be really good. Like I just think there's like a lot of opportunity, especially in Saudi Arabia and the bare knuckle thing as well, to make like a big payday.
But isn't that exciting times for the fighters coming through? When they see someone like me at my age, that's fighting, and they said he's still fighting. I mean, look at me and say, and pity say, you look at me and say, bro, I'm young as fuck.
Yeah,
I can do that. Yeah. I can do that easy. And to be able to do that at my age, and and see that it come through, and like I said, I probably feel this next contract will be the biggest one I get, and that says a lot. That honestly says a lot about the world and the way, especially a fighting can help others. I mean, you can do it. I mean, these young fighters are saying, I'm only 23. Yeah, all you got to do is watch out for injuries. So I've been lucky with injuries, but they can all do it too. If they, it's a hard table to sit at, but if you're willing and able,
it's amazing. Like there's the amount of opportunities compared to when like you were sort of starting off. Like, but even for you just to go straight to K1 and to be a world champion without all that huge amateur experience and just from your own life, and then just coming to kickboxing. How old were you when you started kickboxing?
I had my first fight, I think I was 17 or 16.
And then you won K1 at like 24, 25?
I won the world title at 27.
Wow. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then 22 years after that, winning the world title.
Yeah.
I'm about to go and compete. I'll probably be 50 when I compete again in bare knuckle, which is fucking amazing. Bare knuckles, whoosh, right back to where I started.
How do you feel going back into training?
I don't like it. Training is hard. I've never liked training, but I'm not going to sit there and lie to you about it. But training has always been hard, especially for a big guy.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, man. Like I said, I mean, I do it because I love my family. I do it because I need to pay for this trial. I do it because there's a fucking world title and history's calling me. History.
Yeah.
History's calling me, baby.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your MMA career, Mark, with like some of your biggest fights. Like for me, I just think the one that stands out to me the most is that Stefan Struve fight. That he's so bloody tall, and for you to like all the feints you're setting up to crack him, and like I still have memories of that. It's one of my favorite of your fights and the knockouts. Like, do you think he was like one of your biggest opponents you fought?
He was the tallest.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the difference with Semi Short and Stefan Struve is that Semi Short knew how to fight.
Yeah.
How to strike. Stefan Struve didn't know how to use his length and his height.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about a guy that knocked out fucking Stefan Mirko. What's his name?
Mirko Krokop. No, not Mirko. Stipe. Yeah.
That's the guy who knocked out Miocic.
Yeah.
And Miocic pounded me into oblivion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I said, he's lucky I had the worst weight cut of my life. Otherwise, I would have pounded his ass. But you know what? Like I said, he was the tallest guy, semi-short. But the
Yeah.
difference with him, I broke his jaw, but semi-short back kicked me in the ribs.
Ah.
You know, because semi-short, man, that guy was a monster at fighting. K1
Yeah.
monster, bro. He knew how to strike. And because of his such big limbs, tall limbs, bro, he could fuck you up, bro, from way back.
Yeah.
I thought he was
Yeah.
actually in the middle of the ring when he spinning, give me the spinning back kick. I was like, nah, he won't get me from there. And then I
And
felt
he
the sharp pain, and I was like, oh god, he got me. But yeah, with Stefan Struve, he didn't know how to use his height and length, and I mean, being such a young guy, I mean, if he could have just locked down all those techniques, man, he would have been a force, to be honest. But hey man,
Yeah, it's a
it's Sarah,
shame.
it's
It's a
Sarah, bro.
shame.
It's not
Yeah.
my call, bro.
Yep,
That's
that's
all it
true.
is, you know.
That's
So
true. What about like who do you think was like your other biggest like opponents ever made? Like was it like Fedor or Chi Kongo maybe or Lesnar? Like the biggest physical sort of people you
physical,
fought?
and strength wise, yeah, Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar was super strong.
Yeah.
Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar was, because he was on all the gear, he was like stronger than anyone I've felt. Like I said, I'm a
Really?
really strong guy. I'm a
Yeah.
really strong guy. But man, this guy was, I felt like he was far superior, stronger than I was, and he lifted me off
Wow.
my feet. He was just, like I said, because of all the sauce he was on. I don't think he'll be able to do that when he's clean. There's no way that
Yeah.
like I said, I'm a strong person, man, physically, and bro, I don't think he'd be able to do that if he wasn't on gear. There's
Yep.
no fucking way. There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just like his body was insane. His body and he's
I
like
mean,
how
he
quick he
didn't hit hard.
was, you know.
He
Yeah.
didn't hit hard, but his strength, bro. I was
Yeah.
like, hey, he's fucking lifting me up my top touch. Hey, this guy. I was like, what the fuck? But I just wanted to hit him once in the fucking head, bro. Good,
Yeah.
but I couldn't do it, bro. He just pretty much just smothered me and just kept me
Smothered,
down, and
yeah.
I was like, fuck. I was stuck, bro. I was like, fuck.
Was it similar with like the Overeem fight? Did he really feel insanely strong?
For that, no, the Overeem fight, he was just a cheater. I was so angry about that fight. I didn't want to
Yeah.
do that fight. They
Yeah.
forced me to do that fight. They
Yeah.
forced me to do that fight, and I said I didn't want to do that fight. But they said to me, if you don't do this fight, we're going to fire you.
Oh, really?
So before that whole fight going in, I was like, man, I didn't want to, I was adding this to my lawsuit, and even that time they were outlawing IVs.
Yeah.
That guy had 2 IVs before the fight. I said, how are you guys allowed to? You said it's illegal to have an IV, but you guys give this IV because they said, because he got sick eating sushi. The fuck is that got to do with anything?
Eating
The fuck has that
sushi.
got to do with anything? These guys are criminals, bro. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that fight there, I didn't
Yeah.
care about. I did care about, but I didn't want to do the fight. But they forced me to do it. So I just added that to my lawsuit. He goes, you can't force me to fight a fight that I don't want to fight. These guys cheating. I asked you to put a clause in my contract, but you wouldn't do it. Now you're
Yeah.
forcing me to fight. Otherwise, I'll be unemployed. These guys are criminals, bro. Fuck.
What about the fatal fight? Did he feel particularly strong when you fought him?
I like Fedor. The thing about Fedor is like he's one
Yeah.
of the best fighters ever. I think he's like the
Oh,
best
yeah.
MMA fighter ever. And it's hard to like I said, I liked him. I respect him as a person and as a man.
Yeah.
Really high. He's like one of my, and it's hard to fight someone like that when you respect him.
Yeah. He's a legend.
But yeah, he's
That's a
like I
legend.
said, he's I mean, I got if I knew a bit more jiu-jitsu, I might have got him with a Kimura, but he got me.
Well, you got
so,
one. You were getting him with was it with Kimura or Americano
yeah,
or something like
Kimura,
that? Yeah. Yeah.
Kimura,
Yeah.
yeah, America. But
Yeah.
like I said, I don't mind that. It's just hindsight. He's a great dude. He wanted to go drinking after, but I'm like, bro. It's kind of hard, you just beat my ass. You want me to come drink with you? But that dude, Pitlow, is one of the best dudes ever, man. Especially as a fighter,
Yeah.
man. I respect that, that guy. Especially with his high IQ and his brain as fighter. Amazing.
Do you miss the Pride days and fighting in those like giant Japanese arenas, Mark?
Like I said, I had issues with Pride in
Yeah.
the end. Same thing with K1. I had issues because they started talking about a lot of stuff happened, but in the end, I love fighting in Pride because they treated fighters properly, you know.
With Pride, did you know that there was anything like going on with the whole Yakuza thing? Did you have any idea?
It was public record, bro. It's public record.
So everyone knew about
it. It was not like public record, you know. I mean, I think you just have to go online and Google that shit. You know, I didn't know any of that. All I was doing was just fighting and making money and you know, the rest of the politics stuff.
Yeah.
I try to stay out of, to be honest. You know, stay out of, to be honest. But all that stuff that was in my book, being put in there was public knowledge anyway.
Yeah. Did they ever give like bags of money and stuff like that? There's just stories of people just like coming in a room and saying, "Oh, here's your bonus" or something like that. Here's the money, you know.
Well, I've seen it myself. Like, funny, I was just walking to Sakakibara's hotel, and Fedor walks past me, and we just started talking, laughing, and then I went to see, Sakakibara. He had like a whole table full of like stacks of bills, man, stacks.
Wow.
I don't know what it was. He's just, he asked me if I wanted to get paid cash. I'm like, how the fuck am I going to take 450,000 euros? Hey, what am I, fucking dumb? I was like, nah, man, just wire me the money, bro. Fuck. I was like, fuck. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I'm sitting here. I wasn't thinking about criminal shit.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about getting paid, paying my taxes, living my life. I wasn't thinking about ways I can save money or whatever. I didn't know about any of that jazz.
Yeah. I have to bring up as well about like the Australian boxing corruption, because like, Ricky Hatton, when he came out to Australia, just said Australia is the most corrupt boxing nation in the world. That was his thoughts about it. I had some friends that have fought pro and amateur, and they just told me stories about, people with fake scales and, people taking dives and stuff like that. Mark, like, do you think like Australia is like one of the most corrupt places for boxing?
Well, I don't know. I've never been in the American boxing scene or the English boxing. All I've been is in my own home, like here in Australia. And like I said, the only experience I only speak on experience. I'm not going to say Australia is the most corrupt for boxing, because I don't know about the rest of the world. All I know is what happened to me is like, they try to pay me up. People would make me laugh, is like they said, this guy's lying about this. I was like, man, at the time I was living in Newcastle, I could have done with, it was actually $3 million.
Wow.
But at the time when they offered me that money, my mind was like this. It wasn't about the figure of the money. It was like, this guy trying to buy me up. What the fuck? My first thought is, this guy's trying to put me in jail.
Yeah.
Because that's what that is. It's putting me in jail. And I was kind of really upset about that. Like, I'm like this. But then I was intrigued about how does it work? So all these people I've been seeing on a couple of sites that people said, this guy's lying. I said, dude, I can tell you some things that I wouldn't. Why the hell would I want to sit here lying to you about something like this?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
What is the point of all that? I mean, it's like that is just not me. I mean, there's one thing I'm going to do, especially with diving. I've never taken a dive in my fucking life, ever. And to be offered like even if I was in Pride or Galen, they never offered me that shit.
Really?
No one did. Just because they were doing that shit, and then if they were, I wouldn't know about it because I never did it. And the first time I ever got offered money to take a dive was here in Australia, in my own home. So, but like I said, it was more disappointing for me, like out of disrespect, like it was gonna put me in jail. Like my first was, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Like the number of it was like, I could have done with it, especially going through a breakup, and
it's a lot of money.
And I was broke, I could have done with that money, but I had a lawsuit to pay for. But it's just not me, man. I'm like, I'd rather just, if I'm gonna lose or get knocked out, so be it.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's not like I can sit at you and sit here and look at you in the mirror, look at you and say, this is how I want to live my life. I don't want to sit here looking behind my shoulder. I'm not like that type of person,
Yeah.
And if I wanted to be it just makes me, it blows my mind how people think that I made that up.
No.
What the fuck?
No, they got no idea. Like, this happens all the time in Australian boxing. Like, from what I've heard,
but it's not just,
what I mean?
they talk about it happening in Pride or K1. I'm like this. Well, if it did, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
It didn't happen to me. And the reason it probably didn't happen to me because people think, why the fuck would they ask Mark? If one person is going to never take a dive, it's fucking that guy.
Yeah.
There's no way in the fucking world,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah. So Mark, you fought some, the best in the world in kickboxing. No, the best in the world in kickboxing and MMA. And which fights are you most proud of, or the most kind of stand out to you, where you fought for adversity and you were really happy with the result of how it went?
I'm the most exciting, the best fight I've ever had is the fight that I have right now, that I'm going through right now, is the fight against corruption, against the UFC, against Dana White, against Brock Lesnar. That's the most the best fight I'm having right now.
Yeah.
And I'm winning.
Yeah.
And I'm going to win this one, regardless whether they think I'm not going to win, regardless whether they got the billions of dollars, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
I've won. I'm winning. I'm going to win. And what also is another fight that's exciting for me is also the fight that I'm going into now at my age, at 50, trying to grab a legacy as big as this, become the oldest to fight still at my age. And like I said, the reason I'm fighting is because I have to pay for this trial that's coming up.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens when you got no money. You have to fight these crooked companies that they're throwing money at everything.
Yeah.
They throw money at your lawyers. It's just so hard. So but at the end of the day, if they think I'm quitting, there's no fucking way in the world that I'm ever quitting, ever.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about just sort of know your thoughts about Alexander Volkanovski, right? There's still in the media saying that MMA is a barbaric sport, and it's just a shame. He's a world champion and also a really, really high level. And I just want to know your sort of thoughts about society's view on fighting being in Australia specifically, thinking it's still a barbaric thing when it's considered one of the premier sports right now.
Yeah, sorry, I just someone calling. Yeah, that question about
the
corruption. Look, man, end of the day, what's corrupt is what's happening to is that company that's ripping him off. That's what's corrupt.
Yeah.
That title, like I told you, it's not a title that's worth anything. The UFC title is rubbish.
Mm.
End of the day, you see guys like Ngannou walk away from titles like that because they know it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
People are, like I said, from what I've seen, there's no successful fighter, especially if they got their title. Their title is just, it isn't worth the cow that died for it, to be honest. Especially when people look at how barbaric the sport is. The sport's not barbaric. Yeah. It's the company that runs that sport is barbaric. It's that company that's cheating people, cheating these fighters in their lives and their families. That's what's barbaric.
Yeah. So, Mark, as well, there seems to be a lot of celebrities that are getting into MMA and jiu-jitsu now, all these big celebrity fights, which are, we're talking about for other fighters that can look up to that and go, oh wow, this is a payday for me, this is a real big opportunity. I think there's rumors that you might even fight Jake Paul as well. Is that right?
Yeah, we were talking to the camp.
Oh, wow.
Gabriel was talking to them. Gabriel was talking to them, but like I said, I don't know if he's the same weight, and I don't know if he wants to lock
tough fight for him.
Hands with me, because like I said, bro. Oh, dude, I'm a tough fight for anybody, to be honest. But if I'm trained while the head's on properly, bro, everyone's is in for a hard night. To be honest. But like I said, we'll see what happens with everything, to be honest.
So, just in terms of going back to about what you're doing with the community, you're doing a lot of stuff, and you've also talked about wanting to give back to the community and whatnot with with children. And I just wanted to ask, is there anything specifically you want to work on in the future with business or anything else like that?
There is. Yeah. I want to open, like I said, but I'm not gonna. I do want to open, but I'm not gonna speak on what it is that I want to do. But like I said, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
I've got things I'm working on that I want to do, but first things comes first, which is just training and getting a work contract to fight bare knuckle. That's all I'm keen on, interested in, and closing off this lawsuit unless it goes to trial.
Yeah. So. And Mark, do you have any advice for people aspiring to be fighters or going through tough times, to help them sort of push through? And a lot of people look to fighters to work out how to overcome, or as an example for them to kind of go things in life. Is there anything that you can kind of advice you can finally give to people about that?
Yeah, man. Some advice, man. It's never going to always be that dark or dark. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, man. You just have to keep persevering. Perseverance is huge. And like I said, there's not always going to be that dark tunnel that you're going to be in. the light at the end of the tunnel is always going to come. So, you never lose hope. It's all it is about, staying hopeful and looking to the future, because you can't change the past, but having hope.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
it.
thank you so much for that, Mark. I really appreciate your time. That was awesome.
Yeah, man. Appreciate the time, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks so much, Mark. Yeah.
Mark Hunt was one of my favorite guests ever on the show. But what did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see my podcast with UFC featherweight Damon Jackson, you can do so right here. But before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.